Yeah, Bhide sir, you can begin. Sumit, do you want to share your screen?
Yeah, sure. Let me start sharing. Uh,
Uh, yeah, I'm getting it.
okay, okay.
Yeah, it is visible. Yes, yes. So shall we start with?
Sure, sure.
Yeah, Bhide sir, please.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Good morning, one and all. Myself, Girish Bide. I welcome you all for this webinar by our own alumni, Mr. Sumit Apte. I'm very much pleased to get a chance to introduce Mr. Sumit, who belongs to our electronics engineering department and pass out of 2011 batch. One of the brilliant student and accompanied by other brilliant students as well. Let me share you that he stood 18th in that year 2011 in the entire Mumbai University, and that happens to be almost top 2% of the total number of students. So let us have a great round of applause for Mr. Sumit Apte for excellent educational career.
Yes,
He
yes,
got
yes.
78% in the final year, an aggregate of 74%, and that in Mumbai University itself is a great achievement. So that he joined LSI Corporation in the year 2012, and he was there up to 2014. And obviously, he was working in VLSI domain. Later on, he moved to Intel Corporation, and he was working on industry-leading technology, multi-million gate count ASICs, floor planning, placement, CTS, routing, static timing analysis. Actually, I am the misfit person to discuss all these things. Giri sir and Nimbalkar madam are the correct person, but because of request of Nimbalkar madam, I am introducing this. Anyway, now Sumit is with Qualcomm for from November 18 onwards, and he's working on again on this similar domain. Let me show you that he was also my projectee, and he did wonderful project on titration control using image processing approach, and that was a successful project using MATLAB. He demonstrated how exactly we can catch the exact point precisely. We can catch the point of titration, which itself is a difficult thing whenever you do without even that camera, right? So let us not waste time. May I request Nimbalkar madam to take the charge, and then Sumit.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you so much. It's only because I told you to introduce because
Yes, yes,
we
yes.
are thinking of inviting Sumit from past 4 to 5 years.
Yes, yes, it was on
We
my.
are like, no, we should call Sumit for a talk. We should call Sumit. And now we have got the chance to talk to you, Sumit. So over to you, Sumit. You can take over the charge and continue with the talk.
Thank you,
Sure,
madam.
sure.
Yeah, thank you, Vidya sir, so much. Thank you so much. Over to you, Sumit.
Sure, sure. Let me share my screen again. And
Yes, yes.
sure. Okay. Let me know if you are able to see.
Yeah, it is visible.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
Sumit, it is visible. Yes.
Hello everyone. So myself Sumit Apte, as Bede sir and Nimak madam introduced me. I'm 2011 B Electronics pass out. Uh, I never imagined myself as doing a career in VLSI, because when I passed out, I didn't know exactly like this what kind of field it is, how much it is spanning across India and overseas, and what exactly are our choices. It was a for me it was a kind of a learning curve when I passed out, that where this career is, what are the aspects of this career, what are the opportunities available in India, and all those things. But now that I have completed almost 9 years in this field, I can share my experiences with you to how to make a career in VLSI, so you don't have to discover all these things again yourself. This is very interesting field and very niche skill to have in your life. And I'm quite sure that at the end of this discussion, you will be more interested in joining VLSI than any other things. So just a brief introduction about myself. So I joined LSI in Pune back in 2012. June 2012 to be exact. Uh, for me, it was through the employee referral. So one of my relative was working in Intel Bangalore, and I sent my resume to him asking, is there any opening in Intel which I can apply to? He sent over my resume to his another colleague in LSI Pune, who were at that time conducting a employee referral. So employee referral is kind of where all of the employees who have acquaintances, friends, relatives, etc., they have their resumes in hand, and all of them will be called together for an interview on that one single day, and then they will be making a choices. Employee referral we will discuss in detail later how it happens and everything, but in general it's a friends, acquaintances, relatives, that kind of thing. So on that day, I remember we were 120 students total, the new college graduates, to apply for 4 positions in LSI. So it was a grueling 9 to 6, 4 or 5 rounds of interview and everything. And at the end of it, I managed to secure 1 position out of 4 in LSI. So that was the career start for me in LSI. And then we were doing quite comfortably in LSI. After 2 years, I guess the LSI got acquired by the another company called Avago Technologies. Again, we spent 1 or 2 years in Avago. We were sitting at the same desk anyway. And after 2 years, Avago sold the networking business of our division to the Intel Corporation. So we again got shifted to the Intel by default while sitting at the same desk. Intel then decided that after 1 or 2 years that they will ask us to move to Bangalore. So some of us moved to Bangalore, some of us quit the Intel. I myself quit the Intel and joined Qualcomm while switching to the Bangalore. So that's how I ended up in Qualcomm. So if you ask about my current profile, currently I am a physical design engineer in Qualcomm. My team works on Snapdragon 800 series processors, and we design the CPU for the Snapdragon 800 series processors. So that's quite an interesting team to be in because it's right at the heart of our what we have learned in college and everything. So it's like a core job for me, and that was a very interesting choice to be made. So currently I'm working as a physical design engineer. What physical design engineer is basically we design the chip, actually how it will go to the manufacturing. So physical designer job includes place and route, floor planning, clock tree synthesis, static timing analysis, DRC, LVS cleanup, everything to make sure that your chip is manufacturable at the end of it. So that's what we do as a physical design engineers. So coming back to how to make a career in VLSI. So let me just share some of the things that I have learned through for the past 9 years. So agenda for today will be basically what are the career paths after BE and BTech. Am I audible? Sorry.
Yeah.
Hello?
Yes, Sumit. You are audible.
Okay.
Continue.
Yeah, I'm sharing the screen, so I'm not able to see anyone
I'll
else.
inform you.
Okay. So agenda for today will be career paths after BE and BTech. Then we will go through how the entire VLSI industry is shaping up right now, how it is signing across the different technology sectors. Then we will go through the career choices in VLSI, what all different domains are there to apply to in VLSI. So VLSI is a vast domain. When we say VLSI, it's not just one particular job. It's a collection of 20 to 25 different fields in VLSI. How to enter in VLSI? That's one thing that I was not aware of when I passed out. So that's what I want to share with you also, how you can make an entry into VLSI domain. Desired skill set for NCGs. NCG stands for New College Graduates, or RCGs, Recent College Graduates. So what do we seek in new college graduates when we take an interview? when we are looking for that one or two good candidates out of the sea of, let's say, 100 or 200 candidates, what do we desire? And the last thing will be the why to join VLSI. So what this career choice offers you in terms of like socially, job security, satisfaction, pays, everything. So let's go one by one. So currently, if you see the popular career paths after the graduation, I have kind of divided them into the three sectors because that's what all the students are doing right now. So one thing is master's degree. Some of the people are more interested in doing the MS in abroad universities, and we do have a lot of opportunities abroad for doing the master's degree. This will be master's degree in microelectronics. The subject will be called microelectronics, and most popular destinations are US, Germany, Singapore, Canada, and Australia. Lot of good universities are located in the US itself, and that's where the majority of the semiconductor sector is. So US is currently still remains a top destination. Canada is emerging as one more emerging destination because of the Canada is much more easy to have citizenship with, and the job prospects are also good. Canada is kind of a welcoming country for residents from all over the world. There is much less scrutiny compared to the US, and the pays are not equal to US but very close to the US. So that's why Canada is also getting prepared right now. Germany is another very hot destination for master's degree. Language barrier is definitely there. German people don't speak English that much. They prefer a German. They are very nationalist in that aspect. So having a German language on your resume will definitely help there. Second is the postgraduate diploma or courses that you can do after the graduation. So I have listed here the courses that can propel you into the VLSI domain. We are not talking about all the different courses like networking and the like Python, Java, and all those. These are the courses which can propel you towards the VLSI industry. So these will be RTL design, physical design, verification, validation. So those courses are offered by various institutes that we will see further into the presentation. And the last thing is direct job search. So I myself didn't do any diploma or course at that time. When I passed out, I was more interested in doing a job directly. But there are different approaches you can take. So you can do a job search by multiple methods. We are also going to look at that further into the presentation. So you can directly go into the career sections of the companies that you like and just directly apply from there. LinkedIn is the single largest and greatest source for any job search. Employee referrals, as I mentioned. During earlier times, during your parents' times, let's say father or mother's time, it was देखो अगर मेरे लड़के का कुछ हो सकता है क्या. That literally translates to the employee referrals nowadays.
Yeah.
So you have friends and acquaintances in companies. You send a resume to them. Employee referral is a great source both for companies and the candidate itself. Company trust more on the employee choice rather than having a candidate out of the blue. So if an employee says that I know this person, he is a good in academics, I know him very well, I know how his behavior is and everything, how his conduct is, he is more likely to get a chance for an interview than going through the sea of pools. So that is a great source of referral, and employee referral is a real thing. It's a actual program that is industry-wide program. Which also compensates employees if there is a successful out of your referral. The other last company is service companies. So service companies, I will talk in detail later. What are service companies and what are product companies? So let's have a look at the VLSI industry itself. So VLSI industry, as you can see, here I just put a chart I obtained from Google for 2006 to 2021 global semiconductor industry growth. So the orange charts you see are the revenue in, or the market size in billions of dollars. So before COVID hit, it was well on track. If you see here, so 339 in 2016, $412 billion in 2017, and $468 billion in 2018. So it was on the path to the exponential growth before the COVID pandemic hit. And now it is kind of making a recovery again in 2021 with $460 billion already into the sales. So if you see here, $460 billion, if you just go to the Google and look at the domestic GDP of the all the countries in the entire world, $500 billion will put semiconductor industry as a country itself on the rank 25. So if you consider semiconductor industry as a country, it will be top 25 into the nations with the highest GDP. That's how big the market is, the semiconductor market. And semiconductor market is not just related to your mobiles or laptops. Semiconductor is everywhere. So if you see the chart below, there is a total market value for all the devices. We have communication which involves like a mobile, tablets, and everything. Then we have computers which like a laptop, your desktop computers, servers, etc. Consumer electronics is a big segment. Consumer electronics is actually consists of everything like a day-to-day small objects. There will be wearables, there will be smartwatches, there will be routers, modems. Then you can have cleaning robots and your washing machines, a fridge. Everything is becoming a smart. So whatever is smart needs a chip, and whatever needs a chip falls under the semiconductor industry. Then we have automotive. So if you compare the cars 10 years ago and the cars right now, the cars are transforming rapidly. You have big display screens into the cars built in. You have big display screens onto your HUD, which shows all the different like your speeds, your average miles, everything. So everything inside the car is transforming to the digital. Again, whatever is digital will again transform to the semiconductor because it will need a chip to display all that information. And most of the chips that we use in mobile are actually reusable in automotive. So what you design for a mobile directly can be put into the automotive also with little bit of tweaks. Then we have industrial. So industrial is a very big sector right now, which is booming. So everywhere the automation is kicking in, whether it is industries or whether it is a software or it is a hardware or it is a manufacturing industry. So industrial means mostly it will be the robots, the automated trucks, automated warehouses, everything that talks to like each other and decide what needs to be done with minimum user intervention. So most of the warehouses, if you can go and just Google some of the Amazon warehouses or the Alibaba warehouses, which are the newly shipping up, those are called smart warehouses, where you don't have to go and pick up all the objects in the warehouse yourself, or human doesn't have to pick up. There will be categories and everything. Robots will go and pick up. Whenever there is a new order from the Amazon, someone wants a toy, a robot will know exactly where to go and pick up a toy from. So that's kind of industrial also. And then we have car manufacturing and everything. Government is everything that goes into the military. So it just shows $5.2 billion, but that number could actually surpass all other numbers also. Most of the military spendings are not reported because they are confidential. So government is a big source of revenue for all the semiconductor industry. Because government also needs a lot of chips to operate a lot of things. On the left, I have just mentioned some of the top semiconductor companies that we have right now. So semiconductor industry is currently under consolidation. A lot of companies are gobbling up the other smaller companies to become as big as possible, to just make it fall under one umbrella. Like we have Reliance Industries, which operates from like a toothpaste to oil, everything. Just like that, these companies are trying to go broader into the multiple segments. Nobody wants to design just a single product nowadays. They want to span across all the 5 or 6 categories that are communication, computer, consumer, automotive, industrial, etc. So if you see, just I have put small infographics here for the what is happening right now. So we have IoT ecosystem, which is cloud to everything basically. So cloud side, you will have servers, and everything that you have that can communicate to each other will be connected to the cloud for some data fetching. Then you have connected cars. Now cars are no longer just engine with a petrol or diesel. They are much more nowadays with a inbuilt Wi-Fi, GPS, your cellular connectivity, automated driving, in-seat or in-car infotainment. Now you want to watch movies also in cars. Now you want to play games also in cars. All those things needs a chip. You have IoT ecosystem, which is the entire consumer electronics ecosystem. You have wireless headphones, you have smart watches, you have connected cars, washing machines, TVs, fridge, robots, even your house keys, smart locks. Everywhere you see there is a digital transformation, it will need a chip. So you kind of have chipsets everywhere now. That's why the industry is booming. Now coming to the career choices in VLSI. So I have categorized the VLSI industry into 3 broad spectrums. One is the software design, one is the hardware design, and the last is the hardware manufacturing or testing. So the last category is not much popular in India because we don't have manufacturing in India. Almost all the manufacturing is in Taiwan or Malaysia, in Korea, and all the Southeast Asian countries are actually dominating all this manufacturing and testing jobs right now, because that's where the opportunities are. In terms of opportunities in India, you have software design and hardware design. Software design is a long list of, I would say, opportunities, because what we see as a physical chip actually needs a lot of software supports when it goes to the different markets that we just saw. So same chip, if you have to make sure it works in the automotive, cell phone, smartwatch, and everything, you need those software tweaks. So all these things will fall into the software design. There'll be device drivers, kernels, firmwares, audio and camera systems, automotive ADAS. So this is a very big industry right now, automotive ADAS. ADAS stands for, I guess it is automated driver assistance system. So where you don't have to drive the car yourself, but car is fully automated and can take you from point A to point B. This needs a lot of data crunching by the onboard chip, and that's where you also need excellent software to be paired with the chip. Then we have virtual reality, machine learning, and AI, which is also a big boom right now. Linux platform development, whichever goes onto the server side, are mostly operated on Linux. Nobody operates Windows onto the servers. It is all Linux or Unix-based systems. And then the embedded programming, when these chips tend to go into the like a smaller consumer segments, like a modem, routers, your TV, fridge, washing machines, which don't need an entire operating system, but a small part of the embedded programming is enough. That's where this will kick in. Then onto the hardware design, we have RTL design, analog chipsets, analog design, DFT synthesis, physical design. So physical design is what my current profile is, and timing analysis, verification, emulation, process automation, and tape automation. So automation I have mentioned because these are currently major drivers for the growth right now. So these will also fall under the hardware design category. Now, one most like a basic thing is how to enter in VLSI. So first is VLSI related postgraduate courses. So a lot of institutes offer various VLSI related courses which span from like a 6 months to 1 year. They are usually done after you immediately after you complete your bachelor's degree, and you can join one of the institutes and make a choice where you want to go, the job opportunities that we saw on previous slide. So most of these training institutes are located in Bangalore and Hyderabad, We also have a CDAC Institute in Pune, which also offers the same thing in Pune. If you want to just go nearby and complete your postgraduate diploma, CDAC is an excellent institute. It's a government institute, and it offers very excellent courses throughout the year. That is also one which you can opt for if you are going for a postgraduate courses. These courses will usually have like a tie-ups with the local MNCs, because at the local MNCs also desire candidates which are well trained in the domain they will be put into after your job starts. So your companies have to waste a little less energy training you if you are already trained. So that's why the postgraduate courses are important. If you are opting for this, do check what kind of tie-ups these institutes will have, because at the end of the course you will want to see yourself getting a job rather than having to job search again. Second thing is LinkedIn job search. So LinkedIn is a big, very big, I will say, single largest career opportunity you have online. So almost all the jobs will appear on LinkedIn one way or another, whether it will be through official job section or the employees or the HRs will post like as a messages into the LinkedIn. And that's why it is more important to keep looking on the LinkedIn for various opportunities that come every day. So what I will suggest is that if you go to LinkedIn and just start typing semiconductor into or VLSI into the search, you will start seeing a lot of semiconductor groups, a lot of HR contacts and employees. You don't need to know the HR or employees directly. You don't need to have people to people contact to make friends with them or make a connection with them. So you can send a friend request or connection request to the HR or employees, saying I'm interested in or I'm looking for the opportunities. When you send 10 requests, you will get one response. That's how less responses you will get. But do make sure that you send such hundreds of different connections or messages, because nobody is there waiting for you to message them and they will immediately hire you. The responses will be slow or at most times low also, but make sure that you try for those connections as much as possible. Join various semiconductor groups. So these will be like job opportunities groups, what is happening in the market, where the market is going, the group of HR and potential candidates, the group of employees and the potential candidates. Lot of groups are there, so those are very, very important. And one key message I will like to give here is that try to have as many meaningful connections as possible. So LinkedIn is not a Facebook. Your goal is not to make 5,000 friends from all aspects of the life. Your goal is to make connections with the HRs or employees, which will be meaningful to propel you in the career choice you are going to make. So make sure to have those meaningful connections. As soon as you open the LinkedIn, only messages you should see on the wall should be related to the industry that you want to apply for. That's it. No good morning messages, what is happening in the world and all those. You don't need to watch out for that. You have different social media platforms for them. So keep LinkedIn only for your job related network only, nothing else. There is also LinkedIn Premium. I guess it's some 1,000 rupees or something. LinkedIn Premium offers you some what I can say, some advanced services on top of the default LinkedIn services. So when you apply for a job, your resume or when you search for a candidate, LinkedIn algorithm, if you are a LinkedIn Premium, will put you onto top of the search list. Or when you apply for a job, your job application would be at the top of the pile. This is literally like putting your resume like in front of the table or top of the pile. But that's how it goes online. So you can buy LinkedIn Premium to have your application on top of the list. And one of the key message is that your resume should be maximum 2 pages. You are an NCG. This is kind of a golden standard. Don't oversell yourself. Don't go writing about all your hobbies 1 page long. Don't oversell your projects or everything. Just make a clear, like a resume, which will tell how your academics were, what you have done for the project, which is meaningful, and if you have done any courses, certification, etc. Keep your extracurricular activities to crisp and precise as possible. Don't be too much descriptive when writing about extracurricular things. I'm just giving some examples here at the bottom, how the messages will appear on LinkedIn for the job opportunities. So if you see, these are not any links or anything. These are just employees or the HRs directly posting messages on LinkedIn. So if you see here, like Wipro invite interested DFT and HSMC professionals with 3 to 12 years of experience. Directly share your updated resume to the HR. He has given the contact also. Similarly, same thing with the another like a manager at Marvel Semiconductor in Pune. So you want to look out for these kind of messages so that you can follow them and do the necessary application. Such kind of openings will not appear onto the actual job listings or like a career sections of the website. Most of the opportunities will come directly like this in form of messages. So keep a watch out for that. What happens most of the time is that managers decide to hire a person, but they don't have an approval from top of the chain, because when the rake is open, it is almost from the VP level or director level. So it will take some time to get that requisition open. In the meantime, managers already start searching for candidates through the LinkedIn or their own network and everything. And by the time the candidate interview and everything is done, the process is done, you also get a requisition, and that's when the rec will be directly filled. So you already have a candidate ready, and then now you have also got a requisition, they will be fulfilled directly without this rec ever coming out into the open world for outside hiring. So keep a watch out for these messages. That's the main thing. Now going to the next. So employee referral, as I said, is a very big opportunity for you guys. If you have any friends, family, or relative, even acquaintances, small acquaintances, do reach out to them, do send your resumes to them, ask them to put your resume into the like job opportunities you'll be interested in. So what happens is that if you apply from a LinkedIn or through the system, it will be a long chain until your resume actually lands on the hiring manager's desk. So it will go through the system, it will go to the HR. HR will again scrutinize based on your academics, your past experience and everything. And after that scrutiny, a manager will be handed out a list of potential candidates that he can go and interview. If you go through employee referral, the conversation it goes is like that, hey, I have a candidate which I think is really good fit for our team. Do you think we can interview? A manager says, yeah, just ask him to come by our office for interview. That's how the casual conversation happens when there is an employee referral, and that's a good thing. So do make like a sincere attempt for an employee referral if you have some friends or family. Again, it is a two-way street. So when an employee refers you, and if you get hired, they also get paid. It's a less spending for companies also hiring, because if they hire through some HR institutes or some outside HR company which searches for a candidate, that cost is much more higher compared to the resume which lands on your desk directly. So that's why the employee referral is also preferred by companies. There are a lot of programs, and also the compensation and reward programs for the employees who can hire successfully through their network. And last and single most important is the service companies. Now, what are the service companies? So if you look at the semiconductor ecosystem, you have product companies and service companies. Product companies are actual companies which will go on and make actual product which will go to the consumer. So like for example, we have Intel, Qualcomm, AMD, Broadcom, Nvidia. All these companies, all these big companies actually makes a product which you can see and feel it in your hand, which has a physical existence. Then comes the service companies, which actually don't make any product, but they provide services or design services. So let's say that if a product company have a big project coming up, they have only 20 people currently in the team, but they want, let's say, 25. They are 5 people short. So they will ask service company, can you lend me 5 employees for 1 year's time? Service company will say that, oh, I have 5 people available, I will send it to your team. So service company literally provides a service for the duration of the project, so that the product companies don't have to hire too much. Usually how the ratio will go is like in terms of like overall project management or product management is 70-30 or 80-20, that kind of ratio will be there. So 70% will be actual employees from your company, 30% will be hires from the service companies, or 80% of your employees, 20% hiring from outside. So this hiring is temporary. It is only for the duration of project. And once the project is done, either the product company can put them onto the new project, or they can ask them, oh, we don't need this employee strength anymore, you can take it back. So service companies grow under the shadows of product companies, I will say. And wherever the product companies are, wherever they are located. So majority of our semiconductor hub is located in Bangalore, Hyderabad, and Noida. So you will find all the semiconductor companies I have mentioned below also into these cities, because they are kind of a local service providers. Most of the service companies will be acting into the verification and physical design domain, because those are the easiest domains for which you can provide a service to. So other services might need like a big setup or anything, but here you just need people for verification and physical design kind of, or timing analysis kind of job. So if you join a service company, you will be employee of a service company, but you will have a project deployments across all the big product companies. So that's a very good thing. You will be able to learn across multiple companies. There are certainly some advantages, and mostly there are advantages of joining the company. Now, one thing to keep in mind is that it is not important which you join your first, where the company is small or big, or what kind of products they have. Is it a well-known company? Will anyone recognize me if I join this company? Don't think about all those things. It is very important to just have your foot into the entire ecosystem somewhere, so that you can jump, shift, grow into that ecosystem, and later on you always have a choices of where you want to go. So my key message here will be that try to get into the ecosystem by one way or another. And once you are into the ecosystem, you're only slated to grow. You don't have to. You will not have to look back and think about whether the choice I made in first year was correct or not. You always have a correction path laid above, where you can switch between the companies and fulfill your dreams. So coming to the desired skill sets in NCG. So when there is a new college graduate, what do we expect when we take his or her interview? Coming to the soft skills section. So ability to listen and comprehend. This is literally ability to listen is most important. We want to be a candidate to be a patient and understand what we are trying to convey or what we are trying to ask, clearly understand the question, and then reciprocate back with the answer. So ability to listen and comprehend is that you should be a good listener, and you should be able to comprehend what is being asked to you. You shouldn't be circumventing around the idea or around the question if you don't know the answer, let's say. Clear communication with confidence, this is always a key. Whether you are answering back, whatever answer you know, whether it is a partial, full, or none at all, it should be with confidence. You should not be kind of searching for an answer into the air or something. It should be clear with the confidence. Ability to say, I don't know. That is single most important ability, I will say, that you should have. Most of the NCGs that we see are kind of a yes man. they come with a mindset that if I don't answer some question into the interview, I'm not going to get this job. That is not the thing. You should be able to say, I don't know, because you're not expected to have all the answers. If you know all the answers, you will be sitting on the other side of the desk. So you should have ability to say, I don't know, or I haven't studied that. I don't know this, but I know this. Some kind of that kind of things are accepted. So why I say ability to say don't know, because if you're kind of a yes man, you're going to carry that forward when you join the organization also. If you don't know something, you just don't know something. That's it. Somebody will help you out. It is a team. It is a team game. You have an entire team around you, so you are not supposed to know everything. You have an entire team to have collectively know something. Being a team player, as I just mentioned, you are part of the organization. You are part of the team. Uh, One star alone into a night doesn't shine that bright. It's a collection of stars which shine the bright. So that's why it is more important. And last thing is that approach carries more weightage than the answer while solving the problem. So if we give some problem to you during and you don't know the answer, it doesn't even matter if you get the correct answer or not. How many different approach you can take while finding the answer, that's more important. So most of the times in the real world scenario, what happens is that you are trying to solve a problem which is coming for the first time nobody has ever seen, whether it is a new technology, new tools, new software, everything. So most of the problems occur for the first time and the team tries to solve it. At that point, it doesn't matter whether the answer is correct or not. At that time, what matters is that you should get 5 or 6 different approaches to get to the answer. So that's why the approach carries more weightage than the answer while solving the problem. So keep that in mind. Coming to the academics, first and foremost things I will like to say is that good marks only take you till the interview table. All your academics, your distinction, all the course materials, everything are only good to take you till the interview table. What you do after that is entirely up to you. We have seen people with a very good academics but which are not very good at the interview, or which have like only surface level knowledge, have a lot of book knowledge but only surface level knowledge when it comes to the actual interview. So make sure that you have your basics clean. So having a basic knowledge about the topic at hand is and having like a good mark or anything. You are most likely to get a job opportunity if your basics are clean than having just a good marks. In terms of VLSI, if I be in particular, so it will be in-depth knowledge of CMOS and FinFET physics. We already have that in our academics. I don't know the syllabus now, but when I was there in 2011, we had subjects called VLSI and advanced VLSI. So
Yeah, we have it even now also.
Yeah. So that's good.
Yeah.
That's very good for Mumbai University, because other universities keep these subjects as optional subjects, or you can take robotics, telecommunications, or other things. But these subjects are very much important when trying for a job opportunity in VLSI domain. So CMOS and FinFET physics knowledge, then in-depth knowledge of digital circuit design. So digital circuit design was, I guess, there in the 3rd or 4th semester, if something. That will be all your...
Yeah. Correct.
Yeah. So that was all the logic gates, how to build a logic gates, how to build a logic circuit around it, all the K-map reduction and everything. You won't actually have to solve the K-map, but it is very much important to understand how the digital circuit works. It is all the game of binary, right? It is a 1 and 0 only. So it's very much important to understand how the digital circuit works, or how can you design a digital circuit if given a problem. And then the basic knowledge of static timing analysis. So static timing analysis, maybe some of you will know, maybe some of you don't know, but it is primarily if I am transferring a data from one flip-flop to the next, what all timing I need to consider to make sure that it works at a desired frequency. So these will be setup checks, hold checks, your recovery and removal checks, all those things. All those things we have in the textbooks, they also exist in real life. So we do solve these timing problems in our real life while on job. So it is very good to have at least a basic knowledge of static timing analysis to start with. Uh, these static timing analysis actually lands more questions in the interview than CMOS physics or the digital circuit design. So that will be good if you have that knowledge. And the last will be what will give you an edge. So you have, let's say, hundreds or thousands of different candidates which are passing out every year from the electronics and the allied branches, and you want to stand out from the crowd with some edge on your resume, on your entire skill set. So very hot topics right now are AI and machine learning. AI and machine learning are almost creeping up everywhere in all sectors of technology. So having AI or machine learning certification will definitely help. There are a lot of courses that you can do online. Google also offers the courses. LinkedIn Learning also has a lot of courses. You can join some institutes also which can give the AI or machine learning certification in the 6 months or one year kind of time frame. So having that knowledge is very much important. That will definitely give you an edge because most of the things are now getting automated even in the semiconductor industry, because the growth is exponential and you don't have those many people. Even if you get those many people, you will not be able to maintain a proper work-life balance to get the desired output out of the employees. So that's why you need automation the most, and that's why the AI and machine learning has caught up really well into the last 3-4 years. Then the Perl and Python language proficiency. Now we do have in our mind, it was in my mind also when I passed out, that I'm an electronic student. Why I will ever need to have a computer language proficiency or programming language proficiency because I'm going to work on transistors or hardware. That's actually not the case because you don't end up actually working on a hardware. You end up working on a hardware design. So hardware design is just how the hardware will look. It is a CAD drawing. Like you have CATIA Pro and other softwares for mechanical. So you have a lot of CAD tools to design the actual chip or chipsets into the entire ecosystem. So those tools will help you build the hardware, but there will be a lot of file processing involved to get the desired data out of all the things that you have. And that file processing is mainly done on the Perl and Python. So Perl and Python scripts are everywhere into the ecosystem, and it will be very good if you have Perl or Python language proficiency. So if you see the most of the job requirements that also are coming up now, they will say that having a Perl or Python efficiency will be good. That's what will give you an edge. You don't need to learn C, C++, Java, that kind of thing for being electronics. You just need Perl or Python or Tcl, let's say Unix shell scripting, Tcl scripting, or Perl or Python. Those languages are very much important. They are not for software design. They are entirely for the file processing and number crunching, data crunching, all those things. Again, the next point will be the prior internship, like I mentioned. So if you have done any internship or into the like a product company previously, that will definitely carry a weightage. Most of the times interns are converted into the regular employees at the end of internship. So if you get a chance of internship in any of the company, do not miss that. Do complete the internship if you get a chance, and that will definitely help you secure a job. And as I mentioned, the VLSI courses. So having a VLSI course on your resume will definitely give you an edge over the other candidates, because you will start at some level higher compared to the other candidates. So at least the organization will have to spend a less effort on you when you actually go to the job or when you go on job. So having a VLSI course is definitely important. And now coming to my last section, so why to join VLSI? So if you consider the job opportunities in VLSI, so currently India is the second largest designer for semiconductors after US. India, like you know, we have significant population and significant number of engineers also which are passing out every year. So we have a large talent pool available to grow as much as possible. In the US or in other European countries, it's not same situation, I will say. Graduation is kind of still not mandatory. How our society is, or how we have been grown up into our society, it's almost like if you haven't done bachelor's, what you have done in your life, and or if I come now 10 years later, if you haven't done master's, what you have done in your life. So because of that kind of mindset or the society that we have around, we have a lot of graduates and a lot of talent coming in every year, year after year. And that's why India has become the second largest designer for semiconductors after US. And we will actually surpass US in terms of a head count in maybe just a years to come, maybe 4 or 5 years down the line. India will be the single largest design hub. The number of jobs are only slated to grow because the demand, as you saw in the previous graph, it is just increasing exponentially. And because of the work from home and everything, the demand for consumer electronics has increased significantly. Everything, wherever the demand increases for any type of electronic gadgets or technologies, it is only going to propel the VLSI industry even further. So the jobs are growing day by day. I will say just keep a watch out for all the job opportunities that you have in India and do apply for them. The last and most important point for the women, all the women which you want to apply. So if you see the tech industry, we have huge diversity problem. Almost the percentage of women into the tech industry is like 85 to 15, 85% male and 15% female. And for the last few years, there has been serious attempt to grow the percentage of women employees into the organization to make sure that you have enough diversity into the organization. You're not, it's not kind of discrimination against women employees, but because of various social factors and other factors, natural factors that we have, women employees either tend to leave or do not return to the job after a few years. So that's why there is a huge diversity hiring going on for the last 4 or 5 years to increase this percentage from 15 to at least 30 in the next 5 years, and then take it even further to 40 or 50% in the 10 years to come. So if you want to apply for a job and if you are a woman, you do have a lot of good opportunities just waiting for you. Make sure you apply for a job because diversity hiring is now a key, and you're most likely to get a job than your male counterparts. In terms of pay, so VLSI industry is highest paying field in India. If you just go to the Glassdoor or PayScale or LinkedIn salaries or everywhere and just search for the average salaries, you will see that VLSI industry is actually the highest paying sector in India. And that is also because VLSI industry needs a niche skills. Not everyone from every stream can enter into the VLSI industry. That's not possible. To enter into the VLSI industry, you need to have electronics or electricity and telecommunication or that kind of degree. And that's why it is a very niche skill. So there is kind of funneling when coming into the VLSI industry. Also, the number of chips that you design, their actual cost, their volumes are much higher compared to what the software output is. So if you just, like you just saw right now, the industry, semiconductor industry is worth like a $500 billion, marching towards like a $250 billion or 1 trillion in the years to come. So the actual output or actual revenue that this industry gets out of the chip design is much higher compared to what you have to pay for the employee. So that's why the pay is a bit higher compared to, or average pay is higher compared to software industry or any other industry. Usually the pay scale will range from 3x to 4x years of experience in this industry. For software, that will range from 2x to 3x. So you have kind of extra edge when it comes to the pay also. And most of the MNCs will provide the stock awards, which are highly valuable for long-term stability. So MNCs being a multinational company, they are listed into the New York Stock Exchange or various stock exchanges around the world. And when your appraisals happen, there will be actual pay raise and there will be some stock awards. So stock awards are to make sure that employees are retained for a long period of time. Stocks will generally vest over 3-4 years period. So that's where the organization also ensures that because of the stock awards and because of the growth that employee is going to see in the next 3-4 years, employee will choose to stay rather than migrate to some other company, because there is some serious cash flow that will be coming in next 3 to 4 years if the stocks are there. And the last but not the least is the job satisfaction. So it really gives great pleasure when you see the products that are running on the chips that you have designed. So, for example, I'm just holding the phone right now, which is working on Snapdragon 865, and that's the same chip that I designed 2 years ago. So I know that the CPU in this chip is actually what I have made 2 years ago. So that's really a great feeling to have, because you actually get to see the products that are running on your chips day to day. You will see these products into the all over the markets, online, everywhere. You can brag about it. I have designed this in your family and everything. There is a good kind of job satisfaction when you see these products. This is highly technical field. So this will definitely test your brain power. It will take you to the absolute limits. There is a lot of problem solving involved and a lot of thinking involved. So this is a really good field to have if you're very much interested in the technical domain. And you get a chance to collaborate with the international community. So this VLSI community is spread all over the world, with major design centers in US, India, Europe, and East Asia. So most of your team, like you see, or your actual meetings and everything that will happen, they will be across the globe. So you will get a chance to meet with a lot of people. We will be able to go to various seminars and everything abroad. So it will be a very good collaboration with the international community. You will definitely enjoy it a lot. So yeah, I guess that's it from my side. So I'm open to questions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Too good, Sumit. Too good. Too good. Right from the scratch, what is VLSI? What do you need? What you should search for? And what is it currently? A
Yeah.
broad overview of your VLSI industry you have given. Extremely awesome. Right? We'll just wait for questions.
Yeah,
Dear
sure.
students, anyone has any questions to ask? Yeah, please, you can type it in the chat, or you can turn on your mic and ask. Students, please go ahead. Yes, I can see there's Omkar, there is Manjunath. Yeah, Omkar. Sir, what is the future of VLSI? I'll just read it to you, Sumit.
Yeah.
Sir, what is the future of VLSI like? If I plan now, what should be my planning?
Okay.
He is in final year currently, Omkar.
Okay. So if you are in final year, if you are just so like I mentioned, it really depends on you what path you want to take after the B. If you are, let's say, not going for the master's or master's degree, then within India, it's a very good opportunity if you can do some like a course or directly apply for a job, like I mentioned. I will say going to a course is currently may be challenging, but these institutes are now offering online courses for VLSI also. So if you can opt for that, that will be really good. Second thing is that job search, you can try to build your LinkedIn community from right now. So when you are about to, let's say, exit your B, you will have a strong connection base going into the job search. So at that time, you will save a lot of time building your community. So it will be really good if you can start that thing from now, start building up the community and everything. Start for the internship opportunities if they have, or the final year project opportunities if some companies are offering. That will also be very good. Yeah.
I mean, if you do not, LinkedIn is the biggest source of getting job. That is what I came to know from. Because See, when I was in ISC Bangalore, industry people used to come to take our lectures, and they used to always say, huge lot of opportunity in embedded in VLSI. But when
Yeah.
it comes to freshers, for them it is there are no jobs. There are no jobs. So that was the gap. Uh, I would suggest Omkar to thoroughly go through LinkedIn to get to know those jobs. As you said, the hierarchy
Yeah.
is very big to place an advertisement in the paper. So
Correct. Correct.
LinkedIn is the biggest source where you get to know there are job openings. Yeah,
Yeah.
very correct. Yeah, Sumit.
And LinkedIn job openings will be informal. Like I said, they'll be in the form of messages where the individual employees or HRs will just type a message and say that I have a job opening. You will
That's
not
a
get a
good
job
source.
ID, link, or anything. It will be just, it's you and your connections, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, correct, correct. True, true. Yeah, anyone else? Yeah, Manjunath, there's a question for you, Sumit. Sir, for working in other countries, what preparation should be done? I think so. He might be asking in terms of VLSI or in general for working in other countries, what preparation should be done? Sumit? Uh, Sumit, can you see the
Yeah, I
message?
can see the message. Am I audible?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay. So when we say working in other countries, like so first and foremost thing when it comes to
Yeah, Sumit. Can continue.
yeah, actually some connection problem on my side probably. Okay.
Hmm.
When we say working in other countries, the work visa, getting a work visa is very important. So uh, just having an opportunity in another country will not you will not be able to apply for that job opportunity. It has to be through the either through the education like the master's degree as I said. So if you do a MS in US or MS in Germany, Singapore, Australia, then under the student visa, and then when you get an actual job opportunity, then you will get a work permit to work in that country. If you, let's say, are planning to go abroad by default, uh, maybe 2 years or 5 years down the line, if you are choosing Europe or some other country to be your final destination, having the language, if you already know the language, like if you are planning to go to Germany, having the German language is a very good. You are planning to go to Japan, having an understanding of Japanese culture and a language will be very good idea. But if you want to go into the VLSI domain itself and outside, currently the way would be either through the master's degree and completing that master's degree abroad and getting your work visa, or joining a service company here in India. And service companies also do send for projects which are running abroad. So either service company or through the master's degree. Those will be your two options. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Mm, that's correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, do ask any queries if you have. We will be there for a few minutes.
Hello, Sumit. Can you give a single example of, let us say, training? What kind of training you give to the fresher? Just for example, one
Okay.
point, not point.
Sure. Yeah. So most of the times when NCGs uh, enter into the domain, as an NCG, you don't choose the field. Like what I have mentioned, different fields like software design or hardware design, and there also you have a lot of branches, like almost 10 branches each. So when you hire an NCG, the hiring manager hires for a specific domain. So NCG as such does don't get a choice of where he is going to go, but that's what the sector he starts with. So most usually it will be on-job training. We have live projects ongoing for all year round. So when an NCG is hired, he will be be paired up with the already experienced guy. There is a mentor-mentee program in the organization where immediately as soon as you enter into organization, you will be assigned a mentor. The mentor will be responsible for carrying out your learning curve inside the organization. So he will provide you with the various small tasks. He will gauge how you are responding to all the problems or queries that are thrown at you. There will be some let's say dummy or test designs also, which we also execute, which we go to the NCG. And just like now what we had like an online session, we do conduct a lot of online and offline sessions for all the NCGs to make them familiar with the entire ecosystem, how the flow of work goes and everything. So the key will be your mentor into the company, then the on-job training that you get, and third thing will be all the seminars that happen once you enter into the organization. Yeah.
Thank you, Sumit. So
Yeah. Yeah.
there is a hard work initially.
Yes, it's definitely a hard work initially. So to give example, right? So when I entered my first job, LSI, a lot of these things happen around the tool. So you have design tools which help you into the hardware design, and these tools are hard to learn, I will say. So first 3 or 4 months, I just have to spend learning through all the commands, working on these CAD tools. So there is a learning curve with all these CAD tools involved. Like just like you have with the mechanical design or like a CATIA Pro E or any other CAD tools, there is a learning curve involved with these tools. So these tools are not offered outside the organization to learn. So you will not find the courses to learn these tools outside the organization, because these are like softwares which cost millions of dollars. So they will be offered inside the organization only. So there will be definitely a learning curve when you enter the organization for the specific softwares that you'll be working on.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Sumit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you?
Yeah, there's one more question. Kulkarni ma'am.
Yeah.
You remember her teaching digital, right? You had remembered her yesterday. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
So can you suggest few FPGA mini projects which students can perform and benefited for placements in the VLSI company? So FPGA wise, there is a lot of, one part of my that job opportunities in the VLSI is the emulation field. So I will not be able to tell exactly which small projects we can do, but emulation is a very good field to have the knowledge. So FPGA emulation is a big industry right now. So whenever we go ahead and make a chip, before making that chip, we ensure that the chip is working correct logically. When I say logically, it means that what are the code or what are the desired output that we are supposed to get out of chip, we put all that code into the FPGA first. We trigger the inputs and we try to see if we are able to get the desired outputs or not. So that's what is called a emulation. So entire chips, all the mobile chips, router, modem, everything, all the chips go through the emulation process. So if you can have some project which is based on the emulation, it will be very good. I will not be able to suggest it because I don't work in that field, but emulation is a very good skill to have. And we have Xilinx and Altera, two very big companies which are FPGA dominant. So entire FPGA market is just dominated by these two companies, Xilinx and Altera. Xilinx already became part of the Intel sometime back, or it was going to become part of the Intel. And Altera is also the second largest FPGA company in the world. Xilinx has a big presence in Hyderabad. If you do happen to have an emulation project in your final year, you can approach to the Xilinx Hyderabad, which entirely works on the FPGAs itself. So that is a very good company to get placed in. So Xilinx and Altera are the two companies. You can approach them definitely. Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah. Correct.
Yeah.
Right. Sir, can you share?
Yeah.
Yeah. Everyone is scared of this.
Yeah. So first interview experience. So, to be precise, now if you know, I passed out in 2011, but I joined organization in 2012. That's not because I was. That's because I didn't get selected in the 2011 in LSI. So as soon as I passed the B, I approached the LSI into the June itself, June, or I guess it was July itself, in the year 2011. So at that time also we had the same employee referral thing ongoing. But in 2011 when I applied, I was out after the round two. So we usually have 5 to 6 rounds, and in 2011 when I applied, I was I was outside the interview process after round two. But then into the course of next 6 months or 1 year, like I completed lot of background study for VLSI, advanced VLSI, and also I did my study for various competitive exams that were coming up. So they will be like a MTech exam, I Square IT. There were a lot of other opportunities also at the ISRO and BrahMos Missile Group, then Mazgaon Docks. A lot of other opportunities are there. So I studied for that. One key thing remained that I kept studying for the VLSI and advanced VLSI because that's where I approached first in 2011. Then when came to 2012, I was well prepared for that same opportunity. And 2012, that was a time when I was able to go through the entire interview process. So 2012 was much harder compared to 2011 when I actually went onto the gates of LSI and I asked them how many students are there. They said there are 120 students and there were only 4 openings. So that's how small opportunity was. So 120 down to 4. In 2011, it was just 25 students and they wanted to select 4. So I was already scared at that time that if I was not able to get selected out of 25 last year, what will make this year to get selected from 120 to 4. But having that domain knowledge and having that background study, basic understanding is very much important. My entire interview was based on only CMOS physics, digital design, and a project that I did into the final year. So final year project, your interview happens only onto the things you write on your resume. So that's the majority of the time how it goes. For the new college graduates, what you have written in the resume is the topic for the discussion during the interview. So if you have mentioned your projects, if you have mentioned some academics, and then your usual CMOS physics, digital design concepts, static timing analysis, that's what actually goes into the interview. And my heart stopped when the hiring manager actually recognized me and said, "Weren't you there last year also?" So that was like,
Yeah. Correct.
I was like, if he is remembering me after entire 1 year, he will definitely think of what I am doing for entire 1 year from 2011 to 2012. So, but that didn't happen. He was just playing with me. So all went good at the end. So I will say having that basic knowledge is very important, like I said. And if you don't know something, you just don't know. Don't try to come up with some answer to give into the interview. Just say that I don't know and move forward. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, stick to the point, answer to the point.
Answer to the point. Yes.
Very correct. Very correct. Yeah. Sumit, extremely useful session this was. You have almost spared 1.5, almost 1 hour, 20 minutes with us, continuously sharing your knowledge. From my bottom of my heart, I thank you. I know this is your holiday day, but still you're with us, sharing, and each and every inch of what you have gone through, you have shared with us, shared with students. Thank you from the bottom of the heart. From behalf of our students, from faculty,
Yeah.
and from the department. Yes,
Sure,
Sumit,
sure.
yes.
Yeah, thanks a lot. And I also want to thank you, all of you, for inviting me for this alumni discussion. This is like a pretty nostalgic for me coming back here after 10 years. So this is 2021.
Yeah,
So
yeah. You might
exactly
be
after-
remembering your class also now, by now.
Yes. So I was on the other side of this organizing committee when I was in ISTA, and
Yeah, correct.
so now I am on the other side. Now it feels very different, but it's very good to see all the professors are still, faculty is still there. I saw Birajdar sir also. He is also
Yeah,
still there.
Biradar sir. Yes, yes, yes.
So Kulkarni sir, Nimako ma'am, Bide sir, Rashmi Kulkarni ma'am, all of the people, Nalge sir are still there. It's like very good to see all of you here in this meeting. Yeah.
Yes, yes, yes.
Uh,
Giri
I-
sir. Yes, sir. Continue. Sumit, continue.
Yeah. So when I will come back to Ratnagiri, I will definitely plan to at least stop by college once and meet all of you. Yeah.
Sure, sure. We
Yeah.
will be waiting for that. We'll be
Sure.
waiting for that. Even
Yeah.
Mindkar sir is there. Do you know Mindkar sir?
Yeah.
Mm, yeah. Giri sir, do you want to say something, sir?
Sumit, I have missed your lecture because I was having same VLSI lecture was there in ENDC.
See, Sumit, Giri sir has missed your lecture.
Yeah.
So I missed that one. Initially I joined, then I completed my lecture and again I rejoined. So thank you very much, Sumit.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks a lot. And
Yeah, thank you.
big thanks to Nimako ma'am for she was there to teach us the VLSI and advanced VLSI when I was back in BE, and
Yeah.
those subjects really sparked the interest in a lot of students. So I know few of students from my batch which are in the VLSI or allied domain because we had those subjects and because you taught us. So thanks a lot.
Yeah. And my source is Giri sir.
Yeah.
And we, right? And calling you, the source was Bhide sir.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you so
Thank
much,
you.
Sumit. Thank you from
Thank
the
you.
bottom of my heart.
Thank you.
Bhide sir, Giri sir, Mindkar sir, and all the faculty members, thank you for joining. And students, thank you for joining. We will be calling you once again for
Yeah.
for a particular domain which students are interested in. And
Sure.
but then with your availability and with your comfort, right, Sumit?
Sure.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay, bye, madam.
Bye.
Yeah, bye, sir. Bye, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.